There was once a man named Daniel who had forgotten how to smile. Not because he was poor, not because he was sick, but because life had slowly taken everything he believed in. A few years earlier, he had dreams. He wanted to build a business, buy a small house for his mother, and create a life that made him proud. But one by one, those dreams fell apart. His business failed. His friends disappeared. The woman he loved married someone else. Every morning he woke up with the same heavy feeling. What's the point? He still went to work. He still greeted people. He still laughed when everyone else laughed. But inside, he was tired. One rainy evening, after another exhausting day, Daniel missed his usual bus and had to walk home. As he passed through an old neighborhood, he noticed an elderly woman sitting alone outside a tiny shop. She looked at him and smiled. "Young man," she said, "could you help me move this box inside?" Daniel didn't want to. He was exhausted. But something about her gentle voice made him stop. He carried the small box into the shop. "Thank you," she said. "You look like someone carrying a heavier load than that box." Daniel forced a laugh. "You have no idea." The old woman pointed to a chair. "Sit for 5 minutes." He almost said no, but he sat. The woman poured 2 cups of tea. Then she asked, "When was the last time you watched a sunrise?" Daniel frowned. "I don't know. Years." "When was the last time you called your mother just to hear her voice?" He looked away. "I've been busy." "When was the last time you forgave yourself for not becoming who you thought you should be?" That question hit him harder than anything else. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Daniel whispered, "I think I ruined my life." The old woman smiled softly. "No. You only confused a bad chapter with the end of the story." Daniel stared at her. She continued, "When a tree loses all its leaves, people think it's dead. But the tree isn't dead. It's resting. It's preparing. It's healing. You've been calling yourself a failure because you can't see the roots growing." The rain outside became softer. The old woman handed him a tiny seed. "Take this." Daniel looked confused. "It's just a seed," she nodded. "Exactly. Inside something this small is an entire tree. Branches, leaves, shade, fruit. But only if it survives the darkness underground." Daniel slipped the seed into his pocket. He thanked her and walked home. That night, for the first time in months, he called his mother. They talked for nearly an hour. The next morning, he woke up before sunrise. He watched the sky slowly turn from black to orange. Nothing magical happened. His problems were still there. His bank account was still nearly empty. His future was still uncertain. But something inside him had changed. He had stopped believing that pain lasts forever. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Daniel started reading again. He exercised. He smiled more. He applied for jobs he thought he wasn't good enough for. He met new people, and little by little, life began to grow again. 1 year later, he walked back to the little shop. He wanted to thank the old woman, but the shop was empty. The building had been abandoned for years. A neighbor noticed him standing there. "Looking for someone?" "Yes," Daniel replied. "An old lady who owned this shop." The neighbor looked surprised. "No one has lived here for over 10 years." Daniel felt a chill run through his body. He reached into his wallet. Hidden behind an old photo was the tiny seed she had given him. He had carried it every day since they met. He smiled. Maybe she was real. Maybe she wasn't. But her words had saved his life. And perhaps that's how healing works. Sometimes it doesn't arrive as a miracle. Sometimes it arrives as a conversation, a stranger, a sunrise, a phone call, or a tiny seed that reminds you that the parts of your life buried in darkness may not be dying. They may simply be growing. So, if you're going through a difficult season right now, don't give up. A bad chapter is not the end of your story. And perhaps 5 minutes, one conversation, one small act of hope can begin to heal a heart that thought it was beyond repair. Because the strongest trees are often the ones that spent the longest time growing where nobody could see them.